Kickoff times for the fall are here. More on the way. And today, we're picking all the Nebraska games in order. That's next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins.
All right, here we go. Welcome in. It's Wednesday, everybody, on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Connor Happer here from 1620 The Zone, and Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Oh, man, what a lovely surprise yesterday. I was, it was kind of a wild, hour, and I was away from my phone. Yeah, I was preparing for a baseball game, so I was sort of locked into that, and it ended up being 19-3, so that was a whole bunch of fun. But anyway, I was away from my phone, and after I got back on, I had come to realize that Nebraska had a kickoff time, 8:00 on the opening game of the season against Cincinnati, and that Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson were eligible for the Hall of Fame. So that was
how about that?
It was a wild couple seconds for me.
I spent a lot of time when I was in middle school studying I think I did a big report on the 1919 Chicago White Sox, the Black Sox scandal.
Sure.
So I like Shoeless Joe has this place in my baseball past, a special place. I knew a lot about him at one time that I've now forgotten. And yeah, what a historic day for the sport that we love, baseball.
Yeah. It and made even more historic by the fact that we got a kickoff time for Nebraska football. So
yeah, that always just kind of comes out of nowhere too. I mean, it's going to happen in May, and then when one of those things drops, it's like, wow. I mean,
it's amazing because I think they figured out that we know, like, us real nerds. I am absolutely raising my hand in that category. Like, we look back and check from years ago to see what dates these were released.
I did that today.
I absolutely did that yesterday. Like, I look back and I was like, okay, when was this? And usually, I think I said yesterday on my show, I was like, oh, it'll probably be about next week by the time they start coming out. And what do you know? What is it? Probably 3:30, 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon. You get the game time. So that's right. Opening game of the season. We know that Nebraska is going to play Cincinnati in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. We now know that game will kick off at 8:00 p.m. 8:00 p.m. Not 8:00 p.m. Eastern. 8:00 p.m. Central Time, local time, on ESPN. Nebraska is back on the ESPN family of networks, folks.
Yeah. So can you tell me the last time Nebraska appeared on the ESPN family of networks?
So I think I can. Once again, I'm a pretty big nerd on this. It's a trick question because they were on ABC for the bowl game.
Yes, that's what I wanted you to miss.
Do you know the time before that? Because I think I do too. All right,
I looked it up. It was Wisconsin 2022.
Let's go. Yeah. I had that one right because I definitely remember the first thing on top of my head was 2021 Michigan, that huge, home game where Nebraska fell a little bit short and Adrian Martinez fumbled. And I remember that being on ESPN or ABC. It turned out there was a lot of games in 2022, just a few years ago, where Nebraska was on ESPN. They seem very far removed from that at this moment. But, NBC and CBS came on a couple years ago, and there's no more ESPN in our lives, which is sad. So this will be good for nostalgia in a couple different ways: the road trip to Kansas City and the fact that it's on ESPN.
So who will we get? Is it going to just be like a random bowl game crew that is assigned to this thing, or is ESPN going to put one of its A crews on a Thursday night game to open the season week 1?
Gosh, that's a great question. I wonder. I don't know what the Big 12 crews. I don't know what the Big 12 crews looked like. I don't know. That's a great question. ESPN announced a whole bunch of games yesterday, and now I'll have to scramble to sort of find those real quick. But I wonder if it'll be close to the A crew. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, they may
Thursday
just
night.
want to they may want to get out and do a Thursday night game early in the year. I'm not sure. I'm somewhat removed from that world in not knowing how that all works for ESPN because the Big Ten hasn't been on ESPN. And there was a time where I would have had some real good insight in it when I worked for that company. But those days are gone. So we'll just have to be surprised. I'm sure we'll find out, around the time of Big Ten Media Days or something like that. Well, I mean, ESPN is a small presence at Big Ten Media Days.
They ain't gonna be there. Yeah.
I mean, somebody will be there, but it's not they're not going to be rolling out, Reese Davis at that event. Instead, you're going to have CBS, NBC, Fox, Big Ten Network. They're all there. But yeah, what do you think about 8 p.m.? It's nice because it takes a little bit of the heat element out of it. It's August 28th in Kansas City. You could be looking at a 95-degree day, but you kick off at 8 p.m. and things are going to be a bit more manageable.
Ichiro once had a phrase about what Kansas City's like in the middle of the summer. I'll let you guys look that one up for yourselves.
Okay.
But he spoke it in English, and it's a bit vulgar, so I won't repeat it on this podcast. We could be expecting a lot of the same that night. It doesn't really bother me. You're already playing on the night is wiped out anyway. You know it's going to be a late night. Like Friday is not really a work day for people around here anymore. Right. I'm sorry, So,
yeah, I'm spending the night in Kansas City. I was Thursday night. Already got a hotel. The Royals are having it's Nebraska night for the Royals on Friday, the 29th. So if Nebraska fans want to stay down there, they can go over to the K, and the Royals should probably have clinched the division by then, I would think. So
nice. It's
30 games ahead. Yeah.
And we have, there's an extra day on the backside too. So yeah, it doesn't really bother me much. Although I'm sure there will be people will be angered in some way about the 8 o'clock kick.
You can go watch Jack Caglione hit a home run on August 29th into the fountains. And all right, let's not talk about the Royals. So what we're going to do here in this show is we're going to do our own draft. There will be a draft, so to speak. It's not a real draft because it is spread out over several weeks where the networks and Fox has got a bunch of picks at the beginning. Last year, it was 3 picks at the beginning. I don't know what the structure of the thing is going to look like this year. It changes year to year. And when we get that information, I'll try to get that information and we'll talk about it on this show. But Fox is going to have a lot of picks at the beginning, and then NBC and CBS and BTN, they all chime in, and it plays out. Last year, if it's similar to this year, what we got were 15 Friday games announced on May 22nd. So we're just about a week away from the anniversary of that. Yeah. And then on May 30th, the Big Ten unveiled everything for weeks 1 through 3, plus select additional games. So there was like a random week 6 game in there. Yeah, this is happening. Like, it's happening now. The TV stuff is going on. We're about to get hit with a bunch of information to digest. Right now, we just have this one. And so before we do that, before the avalanche of TV time starts to come down here this month, we're going to today pick ourselves just the order of Nebraska games. Like, we're not going to go through and say, I'm selecting Ohio State, Penn State with pick number 2. No, like that's a project that can't be put together, I don't think, in a few hours. Like, we may have to look at something like that, but maybe next week.
Yeah.
So we're going to pick
rules, like you said. Maybe one day we do it if we know the parameters.
Yeah, we need to know the rules.
Yeah.
So I'm a network, you're a network, and we're just going to go through and pick the Nebraska games in order of how important they are. And what we'll do here to see who gets the first pick, I have a coin you can see here on the StreamYard YouTube, and I'm going to flip it. And Connor, you can call it, and if you win, you will get the first selection. I assume you want the first selection.
Absolutely.
Right, here we go.
Tails never fails, baby. It's on the ground now.
There's an answer. It is heads. So I'm sorry, I have the first pick. So I want to show you this. If you're watching on YouTube, we'll We'll put this up periodically throughout the program. There it is right there, the 2025 composite Big Ten schedule. And you can see when Nebraska plays, who else is playing on that week. With the first selection in the 2025 Nebraska football draft, I am selecting September 20th, Michigan at Nebraska. This probably would have been my pick before last week, but I got all fired up about Sharon Moore taking himself out for week 4 in Lincoln. So much so that I even wrote a column about this that appears today on The Athletic. This was more in the context of Nebraska's 27-game losing streak against ranked, AP-ranked opponents. The streak still lives on. Some tried to say last year that it ended when Nebraska beat Colorado because the Buffs were in the final 6 polls of the regular season. Buffs were not ranked when they came to Lincoln. You can't change the rules. The rules state that the team must be ranked at kickoff for it to count as a ranked win. So it lives on 27 games. This is the second longest streak in active college football among the Power 4 teams. Do you know who holds who has the current high?
Oh my God. No, I have no idea. I figured it'd be Nebraska.
It's Rutgers at 41. There are some milestones out there that Nebraska doesn't want to reach that are not too far in the distant future. So I'll let people read that story on The Athletic. It's up there today. You can see that. Thank you for bringing us back. I was struggling to do that. And so I got Nebraska, Michigan, number 1. Prime opportunity for the Huskers to do a lot of things that will make their fans, and I think fans around the Big Ten, happy if Michigan loses its conference opener, if in fact Sharon Moore's out for that game.
It's perfect spot. Like, and we'll talk about this when we come back and I make my first selection, but it's an early season game. And it is, so nobody has lost enough yet to feel like the season's over. So there's still excitement for both fan bases, and both fan bases, of course, want to watch their teams, especially in this case. There's a lot on the line. So I think it'll be a big game for Nebraska, and they'll want to put a lot into that environment and stuff like that. I'm curious as far it's your game and for the purposes of this, but I'm curious to see where it's going to fall in real life. Like in this draft, I think Nebraska fans are selfishly probably hoping that their biggest home game of the year, which is unequivocally it is their biggest home game of the year, or their biggest crowd probably of the year. You know what I mean? They're all sold out, but whatever. Just like last year, ends up a night game. So they're hoping that NBC takes this one in the draft.
It could. All right, let's take a break. Come back. Get Connor's first pick. That's next.
But first, a word from our friends at the FanDuel Sportsbook. Oh, man, are we going strong in the NBA playoffs. There is something going on every single night. FanDuel makes it easy for you to get in the game and then stay in the game before tip-off, and, of course, with live betting, player props, performance trends, same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. So you can pick a player that you love in the clutch moments, clutching up, as the kids call it. You can wager on that in the FanDuel Sportsbook. And if you got a read on that, why not back it up with a same game parlay? How about $200 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits? That's right. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com today, place that first $5 bet, and if it hits, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
All right, welcome back to this Wednesday episode of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. Mitch Sherman, Connor Happer with you. We are drafting Nebraska football games. I have made my first selection, number 1 overall, Michigan at Nebraska. Connor, you're up. Pick number 2 of this draft.
All right, so the way I see it, I think there's I'm trying to think of an NFL draft where it was like there's one pick that's far and away ahead, and then there's like a mix. Like, you know what they say, that when this happens, the draft starts at 2. I think in this case, the draft starts at 2. So I could go a variety of different places here, but I'm going to take a sure thing like with my number 2 pick, I know this game is going to rate because of, for a variety of different reasons, which I'll explain in a second, but it's Black Friday, Nebraska and Iowa. And networks have put a lot into this over the last couple of years. Before CBS and NBC joined a couple of years ago, BTN really made this a spotlight game for them, and it draws and it rates. It's Black Friday. There's not a whole lot going on Black Friday, college football wise, although the NFL is obviously getting involved quite heavily now. And then you hope, and the networks hope, that there is something on the line when these two teams meet. We're still getting to that point, but this is an easy few million viewers for the networks here.
Yeah, news today from the NFL world that the Chiefs and the Cowboys, this is on Thanksgiving Day. The day before. Yep. Yeah, they're going to play the day
that
before.
Game,
yep.
Side note, that game might be the highest rated NFL regular season game of all time. That might be the most watched regular season game ever.
Wow, I got to wrap my mind around that. That's quite a statement. But yeah, it could be. Okay.
Cowboys, Chiefs, Thanksgiving. I mean, Cowboys are already rating on Thanksgiving like crazy. You throw in the Chiefs, it's going to be out of control.
Okay. I like your pick. Will this be a night game is the question. Last year, for the first time ever, I don't know why. I mean, I guess it was because of the NFL. It was because of the NFL that it became a night game. And the NFL's back on Black Friday this year.
Hey, Ohio State, I got a solution for you if you don't want to play big noon games. Just don't be that good. And then you can get all the night games you want.
Yeah, just ask Nebraska. I don't know. That would feel weird to have. It felt weird to have Nebraska, Iowa at night at Kinnick Stadium last year, and it was cold. Not quite as cold as it was. It seemed like it was going to be. I don't know. The wind somehow was kind of blocked from coming into the stadium. The way it was blowing that day, we were lucky, but you don't want to tempt fate. We'll see. Maybe that'll be a night game. But all right, let's get going on this.
We got to pick up.
Pick number 3. The direction that I want to go on pick number 3. I'm going out of conference, and I just think that we've talked about this game. It's 8 p.m. on ESPN. I want the opener. I'm taking Nebraska at Cincinnati. Tons of intrigue around this game, and that's really what this draft is about, like interest level, intrigue, how much appeal is there for these games. That's what we're drafting on. I'm taking Nebraska at Cincinnati, week 1, August 28th. Give me Thursday night all to myself.
Yeah, it's not a bad pick. We know that ESPN has this, and like you said, there is always going to be early season interest, so it will draw no matter really who's in the game. Nebraska fans will be in Kansas City in droves, and it'll be a cool television product, I think, and we'll see what that broadcast crew looks like. All right, I'm gonna go. So you're going early season, I'm going late season. Give me Nebraska, Penn State here. Penn State is going to be in contention for a national championship, certainly a Big Ten championship. They're going to be right there at the end of the year, so people will want to watch them, and hopefully Nebraska can at least hold a portion of their end of the bargain and maybe be a 6, 7, 8 win team by the time they get to this game. And something's on the line here. Give me Nebraska, Penn State in week 13.
Yeah, the intrigue there for me is that there's going to be college football playoff implications no matter what. Penn State it would take like an injury early in the season to Drew Aller or something catastrophic for Penn State to be out of it by the time Nebraska gets there on November 20th, 21st. So that's for sure something to look forward to. And just Nebraska going back into that stadium is it's been a few years. I like a lot about that game. For me, the next pick is easy. And to think that this game is there at pick 5 tells you something about the schedule and what it is for Nebraska this year. Nebraska is playing in week 11 before a bye in the Rose Bowl at UCLA.
Yeah.
And this is a prime candidate to be a Friday night game. I know we talked several months ago about how there's logistics in the city of Pasadena and this and that, and the people have to approve it, and it's hard to play a Friday night game in the Rose Bowl because you got traffic in LA. It's like, okay, they did it last year. Iowa played there on a Friday night. Like, it can happen. Are there a couple more hurdles to clear? Sure. If it's Friday night, great. An even bigger bonus for me to get this at pick 5. But even if it's a Saturday afternoon and the sun is setting over the San Gabriel Mountains in the fourth quarter of Nebraska UCLA as Dylan Raiola tries to lead a drive down the field to repay the Bruins in LA. This game is in LA, and I'm getting it with my third pick number 5 of this draft.
I love this because you have a lot of upside here. Like you said, this seems to be the Friday night, the obvious Friday night candidate for Nebraska this coming year, which, it's not going to be a home game since they had a home game last year. And we've heard, just some buzz about this being potentially a Friday night game. So as we take a look at here, let me pull up our handy dandy schedule here before we take a break and kind of pause here real quick. So Nebraska UCLA is coming up on week 11. And if you're watching along with us on YouTube, you could see the other games that are taking place that weekend. Indiana, Penn State, Oregon, Iowa is a game. We're not going to worry about Rutgers and Maryland. Both Michigan State, and all Michigan State, and Minnesota are on byes. Northwestern, USC, Ohio State, Purdue, and Washington, Wisconsin. Those are the games that week. So did I miss any in there?
That Oregon, Iowa game, where is that game that week?
Oregon, Iowa is a home game for Iowa. It appears.
Okay, that kind of takes Friday night out of it because Iowa doesn't want to play on Friday night and has told the Big Ten, don't put us on Friday night because there's a big hospital right next to the stadium, and it could be a safety issue with all the people working, and I mean, it's a little bit more of I'm not going to minimize that, but it's a little bit more legit. It's definitely legit, but it's not quite like LA traffic is bad. So it is, by the way, but.
So that'll
all right.
That's gonna be big noon then. I mean, assuming that they have the number 1 pick that week, which this could be a week where maybe something different happens, considering it's a pretty light slate. We'll see what happens with Indiana. Indiana goes to Penn State that week, but if they want to get creative and try and pop a little Friday number, Nebraska UCLA is a really good.
The crazy thing, and we'll take a break in just a second. The crazy thing with all these, like, okay, who's picking first this week? The stuff that we don't know that's going on, like in the back channels, it's almost impossible. You have to study this stuff like incessantly in order to really get to understand everything. Like there could be things like that we would have no idea. Like there's a soccer game on in South America that NBC is broadcasting on this Saturday, and that's going to impact this. Stuff like that comes up that we couldn't even begin to know unless we, talk daily.
Yeah, we had to really figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll talk to my guy, Scott Docterman over in Iowa. He keeps his finger on this stuff. I'm going to see him next week. Maybe I'll talk to him before I see him and try to get some intel, and we can go deeper into some of those conversations. But we'll continue with our draft of Nebraska games as Connor makes his 3rd pick when we come back after this.
The guy that I've always tried to get that I really want to get as a guest, and we've talked about this before too, the Michael Mulvihill, the guy from Fox who basically oversees, he's like the schedule czar basically for the Big Ten. Yeah. This is the guy that we have to talk to. It would be such and he goes on Cowherd and or he'll sit down with Klatt for a couple minutes, like right around this time every year, or maybe when they're really releasing the schedule. That's the guy that's the guy we want to talk to. But
maybe we can talk to somebody. There's some other Fox execs. He's the big one. Yeah. There's some other ones that I did a story last year with Scott Docterman about Ohio State's big noon kickoff gripes. And we talked to several of those types, but let's look into that maybe here for a June episode. All right, we got you coming up with your 3rd pick.
Yeah, this will go fast now as we get into the slop. There's one marquee name left on the schedule, and it's USC. Give me the USC game, week 10. This is right before the UCLA game. It's not in LA, but it is against.
It was
USC.
Last year.
Yeah, it's at home. So the first time since that 07 game where USC came into town. So this will be great.
USC USC undid any momentum that Bill Callahan had built over the past 2 seasons by running all over Nebraska on that Saturday at Memorial Stadium in 2007.
Don't think it'll be College Game Day again, although it was in 2007. And people threw corn at Lee Corso for picking USC, and he profusely apologized while on stage. I love you, but I'm sorry. And then, they went to whatever game. What a day. But this will not be like that. I'm picking this game.
Yep. Jaden Mayava, Dylan Raiola, the Polynesian connection. We had it last year at the Coliseum in Mayava's first start. I assume he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Trojans this year. We'll see. Lincoln Riley will probably turn him into a Heisman candidate because that's what he does with quarterbacks. Okay. I got to make my fourth pick here, and I'm going with Nebraska at Minnesota in Week 8. I don't know. Maybe that's a little bit of an upset. Looking at the schedule, not sure what I would have picked other than that. But Nebraska has unfinished business against the Gophers. PJ Fleck has had Nebraska's number for a while, and I think there's intrigue in this game as to whether Nebraska can go back into the Twin Cities, TCF Bank Stadium, on the campus in Minneapolis and repay the favor that Minnesota's gotten over on Nebraska in recent seasons. So
yes,
let's see what happens there.
All right. I'm going back to a little earlier in the season. This is coming off of Nebraska's bye, Week 6, Michigan State against Nebraska. I'm thinking about the rest of the Big Ten that week and where this game actually could end up. So you have Wisconsin, Michigan that week. You have Penn State going west to UCLA. You have Minnesota at Ohio State. And that's kind of it as far as like the rankings of the games that week. It's a little bit of a lighter slate with teams, going on their bye weeks at that portion of the season. This is October 4th, Saturday, October 4th. At least assumingly it'll be on Saturday. So I think it's a prime position for Nebraska to not be on Big Noon, but to potentially get a mid-afternoon or a night game early in the season. Michigan State. I mean, it's kind of a swing game for Nebraska too. So I think there's some value here for me. So give me Michigan State.
Yeah, so there's a stretch there, Week 6, 7, 8, 9, that nobody's talking about because you got the two big games in the first 4 weeks, and then Nebraska has a bye, and then there's a 4-week stretch where the Huskers play Michigan State at home, at Maryland, at Minnesota, and Northwestern at home, and no, like it's just the forgotten middle of the season, and Nebraska's probably going to define its season in large part based on whether it can go 4-0 or 3-1. I mean, 4-0 is tough in that stretch because these are all just kind of classic, rough Big Ten games. And Nebraska has struggled against a lot of these teams, not so much Maryland, but a lot of these teams in recent seasons. So sneaky good game coming off of a bye in Week 6 for you to take with your fourth pick. With my fifth pick, leading off the fifth round of this draft, I'm going to stick, as you might have expected, in that middle third of the season and go with Northwestern coming into Lincoln in Week 9. This is before Nebraska plays its 2-game stretch against the West Coast teams. People might be looking ahead to USC the week before, fans thinking, all right, Nebraska get into November. They got USC at home, UCLA on the road. That's a really important part of the season, not to mention finishing after the bye with the Penn State Iowa stretch. That third of the season, the last third of the season is equally, if not more, high profile than the beginning. I mean, the beginning's got two dogs in there. So you got nothing even resembling that in the final third, but heading into that, Nebraska has to take care of business against Northwestern and David Braun. We'll see if the Cats can have a bounce back in his third year. This is typical, like Northwestern. Nobody's paying attention to them, so it's generally when, at least in the old regime under Pat Fitzgerald, they would surprise people and have a decent season.
All right, this is going to be very offensive to a couple of our friends in the East Coast, but
what are you doing?
With my second to last pick, there's one conference game left. but I'm not taking it. Give me the Akron game, week 2.
Home opener.
Yeah, it's a home opener. It's got a chance to be a night game. I don't know what the rest of the, there's everybody's playing everybody that week, and it's mostly slop on the Big Ten schedule. So give me the Akron game. Maryland game's still out there. Mitch, I assume you're taking this with your final pick.
Yeah, I mean, to look at week 2, by the way, this is Michigan at Oklahoma week. And that's an SEC game? That's going to be is that an ESPN or an ABC night game?
Be ABC, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I mean the Akron game, it's the return of Akron to Lincoln after Akron came to Lincoln in 2018 and did not play because there was a thunderstorm.
They did not stay in the dorms.
Yeah, they left and went back to Akron and got some money and then Nebraska's season went off the rails because of that game. And
people forget.
Yeah. And Scott Frost's entire tenure at Nebraska was ruined because of the rain out, the thunderstorm game against Akron. It all would have been different. Butterfly effect. Everything is going in a different direction if the Huskers play that game with Adrian Martinez and win 42-7, like the Colorado game the next week. No problem. Adrian's not even in the game at the end to get hurt, and they go to Michigan and they win at Michigan. It's all different.
You got it.
So Akron comes back to Lincoln. Not a bad pick. That's a pretty good value for the 5th round. I'm obviously picking Maryland to open the 6th round with my final pick. Nebraska at Maryland. I'll take that. I'm happy with that selection. Back to DC. It's always a fun time to go to the nation's capital and see a big contingent of Nebraska fans who are out there. You never know who's going to pop up at like a Friday night event for Nebraska fans. Could be like a Supreme Court justice or something like that. It's always a little bit odd, but that's my pick, my final pick.
Yeah, and then I got the Houston Christian game, which is kind of garbage, by the way. Why didn't we do a snake draft? I have no idea. But I'll take the Houston Christian game because it is literally my only choice left on the board. So what we should do here, Mitch,
probably should have done a snake draft. I had the first pick in every round.
Yeah, that's okay. We'll get there. We should not that we'll just let's set this to the side, and then at the end of the year we could actually count up the viewers. But I mean, this is a long-term, meaningless project, but may get us an episode in like December when things are wild and crazy, so nobody will actually care about this. But okay. I don't know. Maybe we put this to the side and count out viewers at the end of the year.
I'll put it in my notes on my phone, and we'll review it at the end. Yeah. So I got to review it right now. I got Cincinnati, Michigan, Maryland, Minnesota, and UCLA. And Northwestern. Sorry, I skipped Northwestern. You've got Akron, Houston Christian. Is that right? You have both of those?
Oof. Yes.
Michigan State, USC, Penn State, and Iowa. So okay, it's interesting. I like it. I'm glad we did this.
Oh yeah, I love TV times. Now I just can't wait to see which networks broadcast these. We'll just continue to get little nibbles of the schedule as we go on throughout the next couple of weeks. I'm excited.
All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL Draft podcast with Damian Parson and Keith Sanchez. As your favorite collegiate players get ready to go to the next level, you can get the latest news every day on what's happening with their new NFL teams. Find Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts.